chance for damage to a triple SI site. It doesn't protect them, but it does mean you've got something to enforce. They do still get damaged and they're still under threat. These pink areas here, actually that's quite a large one there. There's little patches here, the Saplings Wood down here. These are the Trust, the Shropshire Wildlife Trust wildlife sites. These are sites that we consider are important enough to take note of, to survey, to monitor, to get to know the owner, see if it can be looked after sympathetically. We visited, where do we go? Wrekin Golf Course. Just there, there's a tiny little wildlife site. It's a meadow with the golf course cut once a year. It's got common spotted orchids, tway blades, and a few other things. Quite a range of grasses. We lost count and got a headache before we finished the day. These, it's part of a network. These also go on the local plan as well. So triple SI is on the local plan. This yellow area here is the Shropshire Wildlife Trust Nature Reserve of the Arkle, which also includes the Borough Council bit of the Arkle as well. So the message is really this is already recognised as an important spot. On top of that, I don't have it marked on the map, but this area here, including up over into Birch Coppice, is part of the Shropshire Hills Area of Outstanding Natural Beauty. Same act as the 1945 National Parks Act, and the same should be the same level of protection. Development here and in the national parks elsewhere around the country will compromise. There's always a conflict between development and designation. So it's a reasonable level of protection, but maybe it's not enough. What is a better level of protection is action. Is, let's say for the Wrekin Golf Course, is that once a year is surveyed, because quite rapidly these sites can be neglected and their value is lost. So it's alright to designate, but you need to make sure you revisit them. So again, that's something we've suggested in here. Okay. There, in 2002, was the first draft of the Shropshire Biodiversity Action Plan. It comes from a national action plan to support the protection of habitats and species. And its task was to identify for Great Britain what was special about it, measure what was special, attach value to what was special, and create an action plan. It's quite deliberate, an action plan. So for myself at the Trust, this is kind of my guidebook, my handbook. If I'm out and about, I'm looking for some of these. I'm trying to assess where they are they in good condition, are they protected already, do I need to increase the level of protection of them, where's money coming to come from? If I spot a series of defunct, tired old hedges, is there some financial support for that person to restore the hedges? Have we got an opportunity there? Grasslands have to be managed every year, otherwise they will drop very quickly, lose condition, and their specialness will disappear very rapidly. I'll give you this. There's I can't remember the name of the flower, but there's a herbicide applied to a flower meadow, and the specialness disappeared overnight. A single application of fertiliser will also eliminate the specialness of a meadow very rapidly. But there's a recent example of somebody changed the grazing on their fields and the specialness returned. So very fragile. Woodlands are a bit rougher and tougher. They take a long time to grow. They're quite resilient and robust, but they can get damaged if they're not managed appropriately. That does mean a lot of things. Quite complex area. Geology doesn't really change an awful lot, obviously, but a value there is looking for ways to understand it and teach and educate. It does affect the soils, so you find differences in vegetation, reflection in the soils. So understanding geology is important. So these are some of the things, elements of the landscape that we needed to look at in the plan. Also what I did, my background's in woodlands, so I just kind of cross a line with it and start talking to farmers. It's a bit unusual. But slowly started to identify and understand the farming landscape. It's a mixture of arable and pastoral. So it's grazing, it's livestock, and on the better ground we're able to put crops into the ground. This does change. The Allscott Sugar Beet Factory has taken its last campaign last year, so the farmers have had to change what they're producing. So within 12, I think they were given a month notice, some of them, to change. They've changed over. They do receive government grant support to farm in a way, either less intensively, or to actually support their hedgerows, their waterways, farm woodlands, control or reduction of sprays that they're using. Certainly regulations relating to the use of agrochemicals are very strict. Those farmers that sign up to those schemes will receive support. And currently it operates in two levels. One, entry level stewardship, so you get a very basic payment for getting your fences in order, getting your gates on, and getting grazing going again, or planting a crop. And then there's a competitive level, higher level stewardship, where you might propose to plant new hedges or manage them in certain ways. You get money if you have a hedgerow plan. So instead of whacking that hedge once a year and flailing it down, because eventually it gets gappy and loses life, it's like a rotational flailing. So you do that hedge one year, you do this hedge next year, and give this one a rest. It's a competitive round, and what it's trying to encourage farmers to work in a more environmentally friendly way. Now, in talking to one of the young farmers locally, he's very keen to make sure that in 10 years' time he doesn't have to be applying for these, because they do change, they do come and go. So the wildlife friendly measures he's put in place, he wants to make sure that his farm can sustain those into the future. So slowly over the Wrekin Forest we need to encourage and support those farmers that are that minded, or those that aren't switched on to it, encourage them, take the money, just get on the run, just begin seeing how your business can still remain viable and you still have environmental benefits. So
Peter, are there any organic farmers in the area?
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
There might be. I'm not aware of. Natural England Grazing Project. It supports the it's like a wedding marriage service, a dating service between graziers and those that hold land, and we've been involved in sort of brokering and helping that out to bring sort of unproductive areas back into grazing. Again, what I was saying with grasslands, they do need managing, otherwise in the long term they'll just tumble down into woodland, which is okay, but it might not be in your plan, and the grassland may be more valuable than a new bit of tumbled down woodland. So that's another project working locally.